Salam. Okay. So
welcome, Fahad and Mark, and welcome to our next conversation in the dialogue that we had last week on Islamic to integral finance. And
yeah.
just to reiterate, when I say integral, we are trying to find an integrated and blended kind of just interventions, not just philosophies or theories, but practical solutions, but blended. And it was in that context that I last time posed the question that what is the role of Islamic finance in a society like Canada? And now I have Mark and I have been having these dialogues forever. It's been about 6-7 years. And Mark comes from a well-being perspective, and Mark has done a lot of work on public banking, especially with the Indigenous First Nations people. And he's been trying to now implement that model. I mean, the model is ready. He's done some work. And then I came across Fahad's work on now providing a digitized solution for something coming from a Sharia-compliant perspective. So when we say Sharia, what is that? Let me just quickly break it down for you, for your understanding. We are saying that no interest maybe, or how, and risk sharing, that is the core fundamentals of what we call Islamic finance, that it has to be risk sharing, a partnership, musharaka, and asset-based as well. So Mark comes with the natural capitals. So today I would like both of them to have a conversation around, now the public bank model is ready, but how is that going to help, say, for example, a community which is faith-based community, Muslim community in Canada, and how Fahad's model can fit into this or provide a solution. Over to both of you. I have interviewed Fahad before, so you know his credentials, but let me quickly say again, he's been a banker for about more than 20 years experience he has in banking, and especially—
So young.
Yeah. And then Mark is the star of my channel anyway, so everybody knows about Mark, and especially about well-being, economics of well-being, and happiness as well. So welcome both of you. I should today I'm just going to facilitate, but maybe throw in questions, insightful, thought-provoking questions. But let's start with Fahad. Today he's joining Mark for the first time. How are you keeping, Fahad?
I'm better. Thank you very much, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Anika and Mark. Thank you again. It's great we connected, because I think the idea we share is 110% same, which is how to have a human-centric financial system. I mean, to be very honest, you started way before when I was in my corporate life. So I'm sure you have been, you are against the tide and you are far ahead. I saw your documentation as well, where you proposed that system, economic system. It's phenomenal. And then I think everybody of us is saying that let's go back to the God-subscribed medicine. Let's not try to use something which is not organic. So I 100% completely agree with you that thought process. So um, after I left the Islamic Bank, first, and this is where Anika also helped me out. First challenge was the awareness, like how to wake up people. People like, I don't know what Islamic finance is. Is it like a religion? Is it like it's a proper banking? We don't understand what is it. It's very complicated. So we started TAIF, Islamic Finance Institute. What it just provide the education, the awareness side of it. And of course, we also had human supply gap. So TAIF is helping doing that for last now, Alhamdulillah, it's been now 3 years. And then Mabruk. So roughly about half a year to 2 years back, the idea, I always had an idea that, there would be, and I think Mark is far ahead again with that idea that there would be some easier way to do things, less complicated, right? How can be a financial system so complicated? Because it's just a transaction. That's it. And transaction has been happening for so many hundred years. It's not new. So
Yes.
what happened? Where we went wrong? And of course, and in your paper also, Mark, you have mentioned that the moment we start, the interest portion, the riba portion, things went wrong because this is where we start suppressing the rights. And I always say that, abuse is not like you go and then beat somebody with the stick. I think the worst abuse in any form would be you try to suppress somebody, right? Take their freedom by giving them loan, charging them compounded interest and all that. And this is where Islamic finance come, and it says that there cannot be any transaction if it is not asset backed. That's it. If you are doing something else, then it's not Islamic finance. And when we started, I wanted to do a bank, digital banking as a service um, kind of a solution for the market, but I tried my level best for a year, but the Islamic finance, we don't have much VCs which are receptive to it, and it was a very heavy undertaking to do. But at least, again, our intention is purely as, we try, as Mark, you have been doing. We try, and whether it's a success or not, that's controlled divinely. It's coming from out there. So with that intention, we said, okay, let's try what we can do together. So we bootstrap Mabrook. Mabrook is on the face of it, it's a crowdfunding platform. So it's 100% community driven. What it does is that you can set up your pain points in it. When I say pain point, meaning that there could be a housing shortage issue, there could be a school issue, there could be some hospital issues, whatever it is, or there are small medium business owners who don't want to deal with the traditional bank. They wanted to have better products. They want to give equity out of their businesses, or they want to simply raise a debt, right? Without interest. They come to the platform. Platform does automatically all the due diligence, the initial KYC, etc., etc. Then there is a committee, and that committee also is consists of the community members. So this what is the difference between Mabrook and I would say a traditional financial system would be that in all the assembly line from starting to issuing the fund to monitoring and giving the profit back or the capital gain back. The community is monitoring what is happening and how they can monitor is very simple. Now we have a great tool which is blockchain. It does itself all the wonderful thing of making sure the ledger is public and any transaction which is moving on the blockchain, of course, is immutable. You cannot just go and change it in the database, right? Example, community is saying that we want to vote for this project. We like this project. Okay, let's vote it. 50%, 55% success. We put that as a document in the blockchain. 3 years, 5 years down the road, you want to go and check what happened to that project, who voted, you can go and do that. And it's public. Anybody can do that. It's not just the Mabrook employees. So with that, blockchain technology, what Mabrook does is that it just map all the supply chain on the blockchain. So the moment you raise fund, why you are raising fund, everything is documented. And the moment a community member invests that, hey, I like Mark's project, and and it is something to do with the First Nation is going to help them a lot in many forms. I want to invest. Now, the moment he invests, he's going to buy a token of that asset which Mark is bringing on the table. And now that token, which is backed by the fiat currency, or it could be down the road stable currency like USDT or any form, any e-money, the moment it start hopping out from the investors wallet to the Mabrook and to Mark's project, And then from Mark to third party is doing whatever Mark is paying to do, Mark is paying that third party to carry out some work. It is tracked. And then when it comes back, Mark saying, excellent guys, we have achieved it, we have nailed it. I completed my project. Here is the profit that I bring on the table. It's very clean profit because I use it to maybe harvest, set up a school, do some sort of farming, or I was doing some commodity buying and selling. Here's my profit, and I want to share it with my community. So that profit calculation also, we are going to follow IOFE subscribe, IOFE, which is the de facto Islamic finance accounting standard. We are going to follow that. That profit distribution, the algorithm or the calculation will also be public on the blockchain. So then Mark is going to use that calculator, profit is going to be distributed to everybody, and they get that original token plus more tokens which are profit to them. As simple as that. So this is what Mabrook has done. It's not a rocket science, of course. What Mabrook has done is just simplified it and make it frictionless. We don't need a middleman to tell us that what is right or wrong for us. Period.
Mark, do you have anything to say? I have a question, but not question, a comment, which is that the solution that Fahad is presenting here is what, I have been maybe saying, you and I have been saying for some time, right? That finance should work for the community or community's needs. Otherwise, you have written a lot. We actually wrote a book together, remember? I co-edited. Do you remember the Islamic to Integral Finance, where you, me, Robert, Bashir, and Ronnie, Tony, I mean, that book, if you pick that book up, it provides solutions for everything. Like theoretically, not theoretically, we've actually presented case studies in there. There's well-being economics, there's Islamic, there's the neoliberal economics, the semiotics, the impact investment, everything is there. It's not even a thick book. But then I was also looking at it and I thought, what more to say now? Everything has been said and written. And that was when I decided I'm not going to write any more books now. This is it. Now something practical has to be done. And then Fahad comes along and he invites me to prepare a short course, which I did. It's selling on their platform, right? But now the aim for bringing all of you together is to how do we join forces in a practical way? Yes, the theory has to develop. Something new might emerge from this coming together, this association. So we can write about it. But how can we practically implement a model which works for the community, which is the purpose of your public bank idea as well, that you want to set up a public bank. So maybe briefly, again, I know you've spoken about it. So what is a public bank then? How is it different to conventional bank?
Well, the public bank is, like the Bank of North Dakota or Alberta Treasury branch is a public bank, which means that it's 100% owned by the members of a community or state or province. In the case of Alberta Treasury branch, it's a branch of the Alberta Treasury finance. It's 100% backed by the assets of the province. So right away, unless Alberta fails, absolutely goes bankrupt, which will never happen, it's going to be a viable entity. So
my mistake. I was going to say community bank rather than a public bank.
We could distinguish between, public banks are rare in North America. There's only two, with the Bank of North Dakota, which preceded Alberta Treasury branch. Now, interesting, Fahad, if you know anything about Canadian history, 1938 Alberta was bankrupt, right? We had a premier who was a Bible preacher, and he went to England and met C.H. Douglas, who was a father of social credit. And Douglas, the social credit platform is brilliant. If you've studied it,
Mhm.
absolutely brilliant. And it's all what you're doing. It's like all asset based, like, how does money should be created in relationship to assets, and and Douglas was ultimately maligned as anti-Semitic, and so in England, very strategic, get rid of him, right? But in Alberta, what we did is Aberhart started to print our own money, and then the bankers in Toronto maligned him and said, it's funny money. Alberta can't do that. You can't go rogue. We didn't even have we barely had a central bank at the time. The Bank of Montreal was our central bank until 1934, I think. So it's really important, that history, and what survived was the Alberta Treasury branch, or ATB. And people don't understand what that is. I mean, it means that we could create our own money for our people without charging interest if we wanted to, at what I call at cost lending. Loan origination could be on the Al-Mabrook platform. Absolutely. I applaud you. That's exactly, we need to use that technology to do the proper due diligence and make sure everything's transparent. That's the benefit of the blockchain and smart contracts and all that. So yes, yes, yes. Now the question is, and I often say, well, we already have some examples of what works, but we don't seem to know or have lacked the imagination or political will to scale. So I've had conversations with Yaman Amin in Toronto, who is advisor to the Ontario New Democratic Party, and saying, okay, how can we bring a public bank model to Ontario? And he says, well, the problem is the NDP don't have a clue. Like they're either clueless, or they lack imagination, or there are very serious barriers to entry. We know that in the United States, or whenever there's an attempt to start another public bank, the private bank lobby will come down on you, right? And that's the reality. That's the art of war here. So what I'm saying is, in my opinion, all of what we're doing has to be so compelling to our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, that they come on board, because it's a lower cost loan origination, whatever you want to, yes, we know the cost of usury. It's 50% of our household income, in my estimation, is going right now to paying interest on all the debts that are in the economy. It's ridiculous, and nobody kind of stands up and says this is an injustice, and plus there's alternatives to this. And so we are compelled to make a business case for an alternative. And if we say, oh great, it's Abrahamic, it's aligned to Moses and Muhammad and Jesus, and pre-1840 Catholic teaching, yeah, we can stand on that authority. And so for me, it's still a question of why aren't we getting the uptake, right?
Yes.
So what are those barriers? Maybe there's mental, maybe they're institutional, right? You say, well, how do you start something like this in Ontario?
So I wanted to also say that when Fahad was saying, and this is the bone I have to pick with the Islamic finance people, that, it's the lofty claims, which is fine, but in my own experience of working with the community, and I'm talking about the Muslim community in the UK, right? Like I've said in the previous episode, that we can start an Ahuat-like organization giving Qarz Hasan, interest-free benevolent loans in a country like Pakistan, because people still are very heavy on faith and religion, So then we bring it to Western society or secular society, and we try to kind of, water it down and call it ethical finance. Now, ethics or morals in finance is nothing new. It's been centuries old. Even before the Abrahamic, doctrines, people thought about ethics and morality in business, in financial matters. There's nothing new. Okay, what is new? The new thing is that it is an emergent impulse in the Western societies, as per my own studies with my colleagues, that it is because Muslims are growing in numbers, and now they're looking for solutions which are faith-based for them. And I think it's a little too late, but never mind. Something is happening, right? So what I'm saying is, yeah, what I'm saying is, okay, rather than just giving it a name, how can we practically find solutions to communities' needs? So what are communities' needs? First and foremost, say, for example, I'm giving you a practical example of in the UK, 40,000 students were out of universities because they didn't want to take interest-bearing student loans, right? Because of their faith, because of religious belief, right? Okay, so what do we do about it? I looked at my community members or leaders, so-called, and I said, look, the community can start pooling in money, create a pool of funds, and we can give those interest-free loans to these students. Now, coming back to what Fahad has also mentioned, his challenge is also this, that he's building this platform on his own. That was the first reason I thought, oh my God, we have to come together, maybe help him. This is what communities are for, right? This is what your community is for. But who is going to support financially? He's still looking for VCs. I mean, as you said, the uptake on this, the solution is ready. People should be jumping to say, okay, yes, let's just pull in. That is the challenge, I feel, Mark.
So this is, I mean, it's the same with, I'm Catholic, and I could say to my Archbishop, and I'm an advisor to, the trust here that supports the seminary and the college here, the financial trust. So I sit on the, I'm the board, and I'm like, the church stopped talking against usury in 1840. The Pope said, oh, maybe some of my economists are right that, lending money is risky, therefore allowing interest as a hedge, as a risk premium is acceptable. I'm like, no, it was forbidden for 1800 years. Going back to Moses, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, whatever, right? And I'm like, no, you can't just rationalize. So we rationalize this, and and now some of us are saying, well, we could see the evidence, the negative impact of that decision is clear, right? We have actual data. And so what is it that's stopping us from restoring those teachings? Not even from just a pragmatic, like analytic perspective, saying it's a waste of human energy. That's my whole point. Why are we spending unacceptable life energy paying for something that should be a public good? Like money should be a public good. And the power to create money is, we know, right, Fahad? And the point is, both of us are doing this, all of us are doing this on the side of our desk, because nobody's sponsoring us. I don't care. I don't need a VC. Why I like the First Nations is because all I need is one chief and council go, let's try this. 500, let's try. What do you got to lose? Leave RBC, leave them behind. Take control without even any religious foundation for this. Just yeah. So for me, it's always that question. So in the Islamic community, Anika, I've been talking to Omar for years. Like, we taught together at U of A, right? It's like we've been talking about this and introduced to new Islamic finance friends, and nothing happens. And you think, in your community, it should have been like yesterday that we've had these, that people would just come in droves. Like, of course, it's aligned with my faith, and it's, from a business perspective, it makes sense, right? So what I feel I'm missing is, why aren't we able to make the business case, right, that this alternative is better for all of us, and we still will have a legitimate, Mabrook might be the most efficient operating platform. Like if I can get loan origination down to 0.5% of any given 10,000 in loans, like hallelujah, like I'm way better than RBC or anybody else. And to me, that just should attract, the anyway.
Fahad.
And Mabrook, you're right, Fahad, like in terms of, with these sophisticated analytic platforms that can verify an asset or a value chain and then be able to immutable, everything's recorded forever, right? Everyone can see it. It's not like, oh, the teller, I honestly, the joke is you go in the bank, ask for a loan, and you say, teller, could you turn your screen and show me exactly how this business loan is about to get originated? What are your criterion? And what'll happen. They're like, I don't know how it's originated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in today's day and age, when there is this new realization as well that our money is being used for, all the wrong purposes, like armament. And, we are actually funding wars. So people are now also waking up to that realization that where is our money going? Who is using it? And that is the ethical, Islamic, Christian, whatever faith. That is the ethical question, right? So, Fahad, do you have anything to add here? I know we
I
are just
think, yeah.
talking about challenges, not to dampen your spirits for the brilliant work
Yeah,
here.
no. Actually, I've been talking to several folks here in the community, outside community also, people who are portfolio manager. I've been speaking to them as well, just to understand, just to throw the ball and see, bounce off the idea and see what they say. So I think the biggest challenge would be trust. When Mabrook starts, nobody would know Mabrook. I mean, they'll like the idea. And the question is that trust. All those blockchain or whatsoever, I think it's still blockchain. People don't understand blockchain, which is fine. It took me like, I don't know, 3 years to get
Exactly, yeah.
a little close to blockchain.
Hmm.
But I don't think so. It's just a statement to do that, okay, let me put everything in the public and, that's a transparency I'm exercising and please come and trust me. No, it will not work like that. It's a journey. So we are up for that challenge. One good thing about is that what Mabrook is planning that the any project we do first or second year, inshallah, we are going to put that project in Canada. So people in Canada, I don't know how to tackle the international investors, but people who are in Canada, they can just drive and see what is going on. They can interview, you know, okay, we have invested on your business. Here's the evidence, and they can show the token on the phone or a voucher on the phone or whatsoever, and then they can ask those questions. So we are going to ensure that issuer, the people who want fund, they're also geared to talk to public. And because, in our human habit, one is that, I don't want to be governed, right? If with banks, nobody would even think about it that because they know the bank will come after them and to claw back their financial assets, right? Or their personal assets. With Mabrook, what we're going to do is that we'll try to control the entire vertical in first or second year. So with my founders who are into real estate business, they have also set up some other business for last 25 years. We will go and give the fund to that consortium, that third party. So we have a complete insight. So if some investor is asking a very a genuine question, but a very hard question, so we should not shy away. So we're going to set that kind of a what do you call habit. You're going to prove that it's okay to talk to your investor. There's no harm. If something is going wrong, it's fine. It's world. Everybody knows. You have to open up. So, with the using the voting mechanism, using that, okay, something changed in my business plan and here it is, come and vote. People asking about what changed, we want to know, providing complete evidence. I think it's a journey. So my first challenge is not about the technology or the demand or supply, it's about trust. And unfortunately, I can just say things, right? And I'm a human also. I can be also tomorrow defected by seeing all that money flowing into my end. Um, But what we'll try to do is that try to put the governance on the Mabrook, so its institution is not owned by Fahad Siddiqui or anybody else. And that's why what the way we have architected, and this is something I want to promote to the community also, see that Mabrook is not something which I'm going to hold close to my heart, because I know it's not going to work. And that's not the intention also. So the way we have architected is that it's on the cloud. So Mark can say, Fahad, you know what? I like your system, but I need to do this 10 changes, which might not work for my community. Fine. Take it on the Amazon Web Services. I will just create a copy paste it. It's a code. Everything is code. And then Mark will say, okay, you know what? I want you to change those 10 things which work for my community. And then we go to follow that. And now here we have a Mark flavored community mapped system. For example, a community would say, First Nation would say, you know what, we don't want our photographs on the system. We don't want to give you our photographs. Okay. The closest we can give you is our utility bill. Fine, change it. So I think when we start mapping the system to the other, right now the bank works one way, that I'm going to give you money and you give me the money back. That's it. If you're not going to give me the money, I'm going to make sure that your world is shattered. But the way Mabrook should work is that, okay, I'm a community member, Mark is community member, Anika is community member. We come from the same culture. We understand what is our culture, right? And then our chief is saying that, okay, no, guys, we are going to do that. You better pay back, because if you don't, then this is going to have a direct impact on our community. So you better work for the community. So pressure like this we are going to use on the Mabrook, not like that. We are going to uh, claw everything back from your life. So I think that's the idea. So for me, just to summarize, sorry, I got off track, is that first trust, I think that will come as we go. As one of the person was telling me, you know, if you sell me the idea as portfolio manager, then I will sell it to my client, right? Then my clients are sold. But my first question would be that, okay, I like it. It's Sharia compliant and everything. It looks good. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. But if I go to compare it with the other stocks, let's say McKinsey Islamic Finance or Islamic Investment stock or some other sukuk, which are sovereign or government backed, then where you stand. So I think this is where we need to, do a lot of education awareness because we understand, as Mark, has said it right. I was about to say that, but he said it like in a much better way, that this is like going against the tide.
Yeah, I was also going
Uh,
to say this is your challenge in
Yeah.
community, in our community especially, because I don't think we understand the idea of the commons and, a community owned bank or Mabrook platform. So I don't know, how would you
but you,
work? Yeah, sorry,
I,
Mark.
but I think this the essence, Fahad and Anika, is trust, right? It's like we
Mm,
can't expect our neighbors to trust this new whatever we're designing. I could talk all I want, right? But until people have an experience of the system, it's like come try it, or let's do this comfortably in a game environment or something where you're
mm,
like, oh, now I always say, what would it be like if we were each other's bankers, literally on the block in which I live right now, you know, and someone needs a mortgage. Well, who's going to be willing to part with $50,000 of their investment money to help my neighbor with a zero interest mortgage?
mm,
That so what? How does the benefit stream work? Because I'm used to like, when I invest my money, I expect 4 or 5%, even in a GIC. That's just what I'm cultured in here. So it's that, well, how do we create the conditions where people experience, right? The challenge of being each other's banker in a sense, because that's what we're doing, isn't it? We're originating loans ourselves through our
mm.
own sovereignty because we have that power and we maybe institutionalize that power. I guess that's one of the questions I've asked for these different, like we're talking about different kinds of platforms from like a central bank, like an ATB, public bank, down to like a Mabrook kind of platform where there's tokens but the question is, are we still talking about this notion of how credit gets originated? Because what I'm proposing is I'm still playing that game. I'm not going to charge interest, but what are the rules for creating loans to equity, let's say?
Mhm.
And if I look at the rule book, guess what? There is no rule book. It's like, okay, so if I look at the balance sheets of the banks and it's a 10-to-1 ratio of equity, loans to equity, then I'll use that as a proxy for my First Nations Wellbeing Bank.
Mhm.
Like, okay, so you put $1 million of equity, right? And the members each get a vote, get one share of that, right? And so that's just automatic benefit of a membership. And you might get dividends and, but now you got 10 million of loan potential day one. What are you going to do? The community then decides, maybe on the Mabrook platform, saying, we want a new kindergarten. That's our first priority. Okay,
Mhm.
it's $5 million. Okay, so half of that is already committed. Like, how does a kindergarten generate a revenue stream? I don't know. Those are the kind of decisions that I think that's what I'm trying to do with the Chiefs, and say, and of course they're afraid too. They're like, it sounds really scary. Like I said, the scariest part is that we're collectively responsible now.
Mm. Mm.
You're right. And Mark, the good see, okay, now this is a worst case scenario and a very practical scenario that we have discussed. There is another scenario, Bitcoin, right?
Bitcoin, yeah,
So Bitcoin, nobody know who owns Bitcoin on the just like it's more than it's now. I think I was in discussion with somebody yesterday. He was telling me, Fahad, in 2-3 months there will be no Bitcoin left. Everything will be sold, owned by somebody in the
Mm.
entire.
Mhm.
So there we see the
yep,
community without any background of any. There is no religion barrier there.
No.
There is because, but there is one thing which we have, which is proven now that they being together we can move mountain. It's like somebody has to build that trust, and I think the trust will come when we try to, as I was mentioning earlier, and Mark has also mentioned, when community is empowered that hey, it's your money. Mabrook or whatever platform in the world is just an executor for you. It's just like a mobile app. It's your
yep,
phone, your phone number. All you are doing is that paying as the bill at the month end to use the platform. How that money will flow, where it should flow, what should be the profit mechanism, what will be the risk management criteria, how the operations will look, who is going to do undertaking. This is chief's decision or the community decision to join because they know their culture and much better than anybody else.
yes,
Indonesia, for example, even in Pakistan also, we know there are villages, and then on their villages there is like a committee sitting, and they are taking the decision for their villages, right? It always work because the moment we engineer the microfinance over that committee,
Mm.
they become the eyes and ears for us, the fund manager guys, right? So and then they ensure that they do recovery. That's the recovery rate is less than, sorry, the DPD or the defect ratio is less than 2%.
Mm.
You take example of the banks, they put millions of dollars in the collection department, the risk management
Yeah.
policy just to make sure that the money comes back.
Yeah, we
mm-hmm.
have Akuat as an example,
What is an
90,
example?
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
98% recovery rate without even, people,
right.
even I have done their field work and I've was informed people come and pay their own loan back. I mean, it's that kind of
Or
trust.
yeah, or the Yacht Bank in Sweden, like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's never had a loan default, right? It's like
Mm.
You're
because it
right.
was designed to be efficient, right?
So
And
this is where I bring in the community mobilization, and that's what I emphasize on, that unless the communities are mobilized, then comes the self-sufficiency of a community. So
Mm.
my whole
so,
model was built on that how do we
so
then, yes, sorry, go
So I have
ahead.
a practical question. Like, what if you went to the mosque today or whatever, and like I try to do in my church, it's like, hey, let's start a bank, right? And I'm like, what? Like,
Same, same,
Funny.
same. Yeah,
is
yeah,
that what you get? Is like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. We know the teachings and but we hold our noses and we go
I
back to
mean,
our seat.
listen, I've been saying that for 13 years. especially here in the UK community, that stop beautifying mosques more. What does a mosque stand for? Look, create an endowment fund, like a, no. So that is the challenge
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So, to answer the Mark question, yeah, it will be like this: that who are you, why you are even doing this, and we don't trust you, which I'm going to take. That's fine. I think it motivates me because that endorses that my mission is good. If if it is going to happen like just like what do you call, everything is going to happen on its own and it's going to be a success. I would think that something, because what devil does, it makes sure that if you're doing something negative in the world, it makes sure that everything works for you.
You're challenged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah,
they are,
feeds our ego, and then our spiritual ego gets all tempted, and like we're so special, and like no.
Mm.
so I
Okay,
think
guys.
community will embrace their and community have done it in Canada, because I know couple of maybe 2 decades back when I was in Dubai those time, or Sudan, I don't know. Somebody in Canada set up a mortgage, Islamic mortgage, but then people had very bad, horrible experience with that individual, right? So community embraced him, but the results outcome were not good for some reason. I think we're going to try. We're going to show them the POC, the model. If people start embracing. I'm more concerned about the other part where Mark has also mentioned that the other forces, the capitalists,
So
that would
Mm.
something.
yeah, so practically, Fahad, I'm on the verge of, I'm about to start a big project with the Atikmishing Anishinaabe. I know it's hard to say. It's Ojibwe people in nation in Sudbury area, right? And they're about to come, the collective 35,000 members of the treaty, which is from 1850, the Robinson-Huron Treaty, they have a $10 billion offer on the table from Ontario and Canada for compensation for an annuity payment that was supposed to be was paid every year $5 per person, but never indexed for inflation. Like, are you kidding me? Like, so it's taken this long, right? So this nation, one of them I'm working with for the next 3 years, we got a grant from the government to work with the children on financial literacy and getting them kind of those who have even some financial, acumen to kind of, and we never said we're going to use this money for establishing a bank. So I'll just say that up front, because we have to be sneaky, right? But we're going to get the kids like engaged and working with the elders and their grandparents. And so it's all going to be law based. So we have a chance with, I said, so you're going to get potentially $250,000 per member, one time payment. That's equivalent of the average Norwegian's share of the sovereign wealth fund. Okay, what do you want to do? Because some of you are going to be, I want it all to buy a new truck, right? Or let's put half of that aside and start our own bank. And then we'll get Fahad to come to Sudbury, God forbid. No, just kidding. Anika, you don't know where Sudbury is. Sudbury is the biggest, like one of the biggest mines in North America, right?
Yeah.
Created by a meteorite. Anyways, it's run by Vale out of Brazil now. Anyways, it used to produce tons of nickel, and so that's who I'm working with. So that's the practical. So I can play. I have so much room to play with subcontractors to say, hey, the chief likes the idea of a bank. I've presented to several of the chiefs last year. So it's really a question of, well, what can we actually do practically within the next 2 years? And if we could play with Mabrook and again, has nothing to do with Islamic finance. It's just a technology. It's like, and my interest is, I want the rigor that every asset class has a very clear, like I have an accounting background. So what is an asset? It delivers, it has potential value to us. So I don't care if it's a piece of farmland or it's a tractor or it's a computer. there should be some type of algorithm, value function that we can assign to that asset class. So we know how it's going to behave or be encumbered. Therefore, when we invest in this, is the decision is, well, how many of these assets do we actually need for this population? And like, is this guy's business plan a good one? Those are the kind of criterion we would put in place on this platform.
Yeah. In Mabrook, that's a very good point. In Mabrook roadmap, inshallah, by depending on when I get funded and when this project is started and when I get a license, there are some question marks, but we are working toward those gaps, as we have been working for so many gaps we have filled, alhamdulillah, by the help of the God, nothing else. Is that
And
we will
just to
have
be clear, Fahad is not the only one. He has a team and an advisory board with him. So people shouldn't think that Mabrook is just Fahad. It's not. Yeah, sorry.
No. We are down now 16 people, including the developers, and then I've got board of advisory. One of the person he's very senior. He's the second tier or second generation of Islamic banker. He's ex-Baraka Bank. He have set up first of its kind Islamic finance treasury system in Bahrain and Sukuk and whatnot. One of my ex-boss is also in the board of advisory. He happens to be the IFC risk management consultant, World Bank. And all his life I've seen since the day I started working in Karachi under him is risk management. So I don't know, I have 35 years of risk management experience in different banks, including Citibank and so many banks in the world. So the risk management policy, for example, is reviewed by him. So the idea is that, we put our combined knowledge, take what is the best and put in the system. And yeah, so I think and it's not about, sometimes I say, first, religion for me is very important, of course. There is no life without religion.
Absolutely.
But first we have to be a good human. First qualifying criteria is that, am I a good human? My intention is positive. Am I really doing it, or just like a eye washer? Right? First, my intention, the battle inside me should be won before I go start preaching other people that this is the right or wrong. And we should not be judgmental as well. We should not judge anybody, whether he's a Muslim or not. The God has not allowed us to judge. That's not our job to do. So with that intention, as I mentioned, Mabrook, the way we have architect is twofold. One is that we're going to do it for our community. Or when I say community, it means like any human. Let me just put it this way, because people think when I say our community, it means a Muslim. No. Because Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came for the entire world and universe, not for only Muslims, right? The
When you
moment I say that,
I think when you say community, it refers to the local people.
local people,
Yeah.
exactly. And then the other flavor of Mabrook is tokenization as a service. You don't have to even call it Mabrook. We should not be bothered about that. It should be that I give you and you say, I want it to be orange color, I want it to be like this. At the end, it should help the community. And imagine that, Mark, if we have 20 community like this across the world.
Yes.
And they are under one umbrella of that software. That software understand its coding and it's automatically connected. All you have to do is start opening the door. That far, I see synergy in your project with my First Nation. Open the door. And now it's now
Creating
community.
virtuous circles. It's about creating the virtuous circles. Yeah.
So
I think we should.
I have to go in a few minutes, but
yes, we should wrap it up because it's right.
I just want to say that I will be coming out to Sudbury from time to time, so we'll meet in Toronto and get some, as some people say, get some shit done. Like.
Oops.
Oops, I know. You can edit that out. Just kidding.
You're actually being the Russell Brand here, using that language.
Oh, I could learn a lot from Russell Brand.
Yeah, but anyways, I think Fahad, this is it for now. We will have another session.